Hi everyone, happy Thursday. I hope that you guys are having a great week. And today we're going to continue with missing angle measures. However, if you notice with this first example, we're going to throw in some algebra today and we're going to be solving some equations. So we're going to go back and review that because that is an essential skill for 8th grade. You have to know how to solve equations. And today we're going to use that with some geometry. So let's look at this first example. And what I notice with this first example is that these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2, form this 90-degree angle right here. We have this symbol. So if two angles have a sum of 90 degrees, using that vocabulary word from yesterday and from Tuesday, we can say that they are complementary. The sum is equal to 90 degrees. We see that right angle there. And so the directions state that we need to find the value of x. We need to know what that missing value is right there in this expression. And then we have to find the measure of angle 2. So we know that the measure of angle 1 is 28 degrees, and we're given an expression for the measure of angle 2. So let me write down what I know as of right now. So these two angles, angle 1 plus angle 2, are complementary, so they have to add up to 90 degrees. And then I'm going to plug in what I've been given for those angle measures. Angle 1, we know, is 28 degrees. We haven't been given an angle measure for angle 2, so I'm going to plug in this expression right here. 12x plus 2 is equal to 90. So there is my equation to start with. And so how can I simplify this equation? Well, maybe I can combine some like terms. I have some constants. I can combine 28, which is positive 28, and positive 2. And 28 plus 2 is 30. So I have 12x plus 30 is equal to 90. I just combine those two constants to get that 30. That was my first step. And now I have this two-step equation. And I'm going to solve it using the standard algorithm. So remember, I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to go through the steps. First, I multiply x by 12, and then I'm adding 30, and that is equal to 90. I want to get rid of the addition or subtraction first. So the inverse of adding 30 is to subtract 30 from both sides. And now I'm left with 12x is equal to 60. I'm multiplying x by 12, so the inverse of multiplying by 12 would be to divide by 12. And 60 divided by 12 is 5. So I know that x is equal to 5. That does not mean that the measure of angle 2 is 5 degrees, because 28 plus 5 does not add up to our total of 90. So what do I have to do? I have to go back and substitute 5 into this expression for x. So 12x means 12 times x, and if x is 5, that's 12 times 5 plus 2. 12 times 5 is 60. 60 plus 2 is 62 degrees. Well, let me make sure. So if I'm saying that angle 2 is 62 degrees and angle 1 is 28 degrees, let me make sure that they add up to 90 degrees. Do that check step. They do in fact add up to 90 degrees. So what we can say over here is that x is equal to 5 and the measure of angle 2 is equal to 62 degrees. That's my final answer. I was able to figure that out because I knew that these two angles are complementary. They add up to 90 degrees. So I wrote my equation, combined like terms, and solved for x. Okay, let's move on to our next one. So for this next one, I have angle CAN, and I'm given an expression for that angle measure is 9x minus 12. And angle PAN, that expression is 4x minus 3. So now I have two algebraic expressions to represent those angle measures. And these two angles don't add up to 90 degrees. Now they're going to add up to 180 degrees because they form this straight line right here. And that vocabulary word that we use to describe when two angles have a sum of 180 degrees is supplementary. They have a sum of 180 degrees, and that's this straight line right there. So here's what I know. I know that this angle right here, angle CAN plus angle PAN has to equal 180 degrees. So now I'm going to fill in what I know. I know the expression for this angle is 9x minus 12. The expression for angle PAN is 4x minus 3. And that totals 180 degrees. So I have these two expressions to represent those angle measures. And now, just like I did with example 1 with those complementary angles, I can combine like terms. So why don't we combine the constants first? And be careful here, because this is minus 12, and remember that means negative 12. So what is negative 12 plus another negative 3? Negative 12 plus negative 3. If you owe someone $12 and then owe them another $3, you're going to owe them $15. That is negative 15. Be careful, remember to look at the sign in front of the term. So I combine my constants. Now I can combine those terms that are being multiplied by x. Well, this is positive 9x. This is positive 4x. And so positive 9x plus positive 4x is 13x. So I have 13x minus 15 is equal to 180. And now I'm going to solve that equation. I've simplified it as much as I can. Now I'm going to solve this two-step equation. The inverse of subtracting 15 is to add 15 to both sides. So I get rid of that, and I'm left with 13x is equal to 195. I'm multiplying x by 13, so the inverse is to divide by 13. You can use a calculator for this standard. I don't know what 195 divided by 13 is off the top of my head, so I'm going to do that on the calculator. And I get that x is equal to 15. So that's only part of my answer. That does not mean that this angle measures 15 degrees or this angle measures 15 degrees. I have to substitute this value now of 15 in for x for both of these angles. Let's do angle CAN first. So I have 9x minus 12. This means 9 times x. 9 times 15 minus 12. So let's see. 9 times 15. Oops. 9 times 15 is definitely not that. 135. And 135 minus 12 is 123 degrees. That's what I got for the measure of angle CAN. And now let's do angle TAN. 4x means 4 times x is 15 minus 3. 4 times 15 is 60. 60 minus 3 is 57 degrees. And so remember that check step at the very end. Let's make sure that 123 plus 57 is in fact 180. I do see that that is true. So now I'm going to write out my final answer. I'll put that right here. I know that x is 15. The measure of angle CAN is equal to 123 degrees. And I know the measure of angle TAN is equal to 57 degrees. That's my final answer, and I have double-checked that to make sure they do in fact add up to 180. If it does not add up to 180 degrees, you've probably made a mistake either writing the equation or solving the equation or substituting that value back into the expression. So you need to go back and check all of those steps. And now we're going to move on to our last example. We've covered complementary and supplementary angles. And the last one that we have to cover are angles that look like this. So we need to find the value of x and then the measure of angle 1. So we know that this angle right here is 154 degrees.